Hey guys, it's Les Cubes, and I'm here with NCWG4,
He is.
who's just got back from Daytona earlier this
I
week.
did.
And we're doing a Daytona post-race thingamabob, if that's not the best way to put this. So it was an interesting race so far as extremely clean. Not too much going on. We only had 4 cautions. Race distance record was shattered.
Absolutely destroyed.
Just general stories from the race. Action Express won, and the number 5 card. That was the only thing I got right that I said in the pre-race show.
I didn't even get to have that, and it was fucking offered to me on a plate. But no. But to be fair, we did say Action Express. We're on it,
right?
And
we're on it.
High time that they got back together.
Yeah.
And that was the Action Express of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When they win championships. So, yeah, they're back to their old selves.
Excellent showing from them. Penske, with their new car, they did Penske things. They were a threat. They weren't a threat enough to go out there and win, but that car is definitely going to be a contender throughout the season.
Yeah, on pace, that was, as we said before, it was easily the second fastest car out there. They ran a decent race as well as you could. It was one of the typical new car problems that this has had. So, stupid shit, such as the door not closing.
Yeah, the door
like
thing
that.
was pretty special.
That was... Yeah, it's like, how did that... Okay, whatever. But yeah, it was just typical new car things for Car's debut. A team coming back into a championship. They did nothing wrong. Those Penske things.
Indeed. And of course, definitely buoyed by, not just Penske things on the preparation side, the chassis development side, but also All-Star Cast driving the things.
Oh yeah. But that's the Penske way. They don't mess about. If they're going to get someone to drive it, they're going to do it properly.
Right. Except for the little bit of Montoya doing Montoya things, but usually
that, yeah. See, the thing about Montoya doing Montoya things is they only cost the GT cars, so Roger doesn't.
That's fine, yeah. Screw those peasants.
Yeah.
And of course, Penske, if anybody knows how to win at Daytona, it is Penske. Historically.
So they've scared everyone. Not as much as we may have thought. I did say the 7 was going to win, and for a few hours it did look like the 7 was going to win, but the 7 didn't win because it died like 3/4 of the prototype field at the night, which we'll probably get to at some point.
Yeah. So besides the giant rubber German elephant in the room, reliability in general in prototype, not so good.
No, surprisingly poor.
Yeah. Which is, and it was the spec cars too. Or a lot of the spec cars. The
it didn't really discriminate. Yeah. Everyone was having trouble. Like, the 23 just lost all its brakes at one point.
Yeah.
Like, stupid stuff like that.
And that's not something you see anymore. They don't change brakes on prototypes anymore. They don't break. So that was strange. I suspect, and this is just me kind of snowballing here, but I suspect the Perhaps the overall race pace might have made that more of a thing. But
Possibly.
possibly, I don't know. Throwing it out there.
But here's the thing, you know, more or less, over more than half a year ago, those LMP2 cars did Le Mans. Le Mans is Le Mans. The pace is stupidly high.
Right. Very
At Le
true.
Mans.
Very true.
And there wasn't anywhere near this problems in the LMP2 class.
Yeah.
You could sort of be like, the DPIs are their own thing. They only do one 24-hour race a year.
Yeah.
So, which is the only real comparison, and you can't really compare it to Daytona last year because first year, but you'd think by the second year it'll be a bit better than this. What we got,
Yeah.
I was mostly disappointed with the two ASM cars retiring.
Yeah. No, that was not what we were expecting.
Yeah, I thought at the end of last season they got the reliability sorted, and on pace they were actually very good.
Yeah.
And they looked and it looked like when the Cadillacs started running into trouble that this was their opportunity. The Penske's had dropped to the side with their minor issues, and the Cadillacs were beginning to die. It looked like the ESM cars would come through this, maybe sneak in a win here. But then they themselves fell victim to reliability, and that was that. Quite disappointing.
And, back on the positive side of things, a few of the LMP2 teams did do quite well against the field, specifically Core, who moved up from GTD last year and made the podium.
Yeah, it seems like they're definitely a prototype team, because they did PC, they did that quite well. Then they went to GTD, were all right. Now they're back in a prototype, and suddenly they know what they're doing again. As we mentioned in the previous show, they had a very good lineup. They Laura Tavel and Roman Dumas in the car alongside whoever else was in that car. Essentially the two guys who were paying for the whole thing. Yeah, they had Colin Brown, I think, and Jonathan Bennett. Bennett, I presume, is the guy who's paying for the thing. Colin Brown, I think, didn't he drive for them in PC? But he did quite good. Overall, that was a very well run effort. But again, that was great and all. But to be fair, they were massively helped by the reliability.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's still an excellent. It's an excellent result,
Yes,
and
you can't take away from it.
yeah, they didn't get hung out. Was also part of it, by the reliability and by, I think it's time to mention it, Continental Police.
Yeah.
Those. So apparently it was the same tire that they'd run before.
Okay. That's brilliant.
That's what they were saying on RSL during the race. It seems
good logic for new cars,
Right.
Let's use the same shite we used with the old cars.
But this didn't happen on the old cars, which is the interesting thing.
Yeah. And weirdly, the latest claim with this argument is that the new cars are putting less load on than the DPs, which you can kind of see where they're coming from, because the old DPs weigh 10 tons compared to the modern prototypes. So that gives him less excuse for them blowing up.
Oh yeah. During the broadcast, they were saying that the LMPs, the DPIs, were running higher downforce than they did last year.
Which would be feasible.
Possible. I don't know. On the broadcast, the track looked real dirty.
It was.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how much of that was that, but it happened at the same place every time. Damn near, anyways.
Yeah. So there's one reason why it seemed to always happen on the banking, and didn't really have much to do with the banking itself, but there's there's not one simple reason why the tires blew up. As usual with these things, to be fair, a decent amount of them were legitimate punctures. That it doesn't matter what the team's doing, doesn't matter what Continental do, the tire's going to go. Um,
Right.
A lot of drivers come out afterwards saying they were following, cars that were having particular trouble. They're following through the bus stop and they were cutting the shit out of those curbs, which are notorious for destroying tires.
That'd do it.
Yeah, and then so you see the situation. They come through the bus stop, they cut the curb, catch the inside, go up on the banking, and turn 3 and 4. Oh, look, the tire's blown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
then some others blew before the bus stop.
Yeah, but it was always happening on the oval section. But
yeah, well, that's kind of the nature of the track. The field is so short and the lows are relatively low that if a tire is on the way out, it's going to go on the banking. Is what it is.
Positive to that is, even though all the tires did let go on the banking, nobody ate it. They all made it back,
yes.
Which is pretty remarkable, I think.
There was plenty of cars that, as you said, had all sorts of issues on the ovals, but did anyone even spin in the oval section? Nick Tandy aside, and he did eat it. So
yeah, that was a thing.
yeah, but yeah, everyone got out okay.
Yeah.
Though the asterisk to that is when Taylor withdrew his car to avoid exactly that happening.
Yeah.
Which that's uncomfortable when you hear a team owner withdrawing his car because he doesn't want to put his drivers at risk. He fears for his driver's safety and putting him out.
Absolutely, and he was very adamant that his car was within all the specifications that Continental had laid out for camber and pressure, and that seems to be the general case. So it's just very, very strange. It wasn't.
Yeah, and before people when they started blowing, people obviously pointed to teams and went, look, they're doing something stupid.
Yeah,
which is fair enough because
we've seen it before in other Formula One especially.
Yeah, that's what teams do. They take the piss. But the thing is that car had 7 tires let go, and each time, most times it was doing enough damage to the car that they had to go to the garage.
Yeah.
Look, this is not a bad team. We're not dealing with idiots.
Last year's champions.
Last year's champion, and arguably the best prototype team in the world coming out of last season. Like, in the world of all prototype teams across all categories, they easily.
They were certainly the most dominant last year.
Yes. So to think that after 7 failures that they would keep pushing the car out if they knew themselves that they were taking risk or something like that is ludicrous. And the same applies to all the other prototype teams that were having repeating issues. Though it is kind of strange that the issues seem to only affect certain cars, though. That still doesn't quite add up.
Yeah, I wonder, something in setup that wasn't on the spec sheet. I can't imagine what would be. What you would change that they wouldn't have figured out.
Yeah, which kind of points back to Continental incompetence of, sure, they're within the recommendation that Continental gave them, but how good is that recommendation?
Right.
Which is also a possibility and kind of a scary possibility.
I mean, is it something dumb like this was just a bad batch of rubber? You hear about defective batches of street tires. It happens rarely, but it happens every once in a while. Maybe it's all speculation because we don't have any data on it.
Yeah, and Continental themselves don't really know what's going on, which, to be fair, they won't know for a while, and who knows if they'll ever fully come clean. Because they don't have to, and tire companies rarely do.
Right.
This it isn't just picking on Continental. It's just not what happens.
Yeah.
They'll cover their asses during the race, but that once the spotlight moves away, they're not going to bring it back onto themselves.
No.
Once it dies down, they'll talk it over within the paddock, but it won't leave unless it has to. That's just how it goes. But that being said, overall, sort of Continental's crisis management to the whole thing is a bit panic baskety.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also have to say what are you going to do? You can't bring a new tire, and you don't want to get into a situation where you're pulling in Indy 2005 and saying, "Hey, no." You can't shut down an entire class, so there's really nothing you can do. Certainly during the race.
Well, there's nothing they can physically do and meaningly do, but there is, it would probably would have been better for them not to immediately throw teams under the bus when they don't know that teams.
That is true. That is true. That was very reactionary.
Yeah, considering that they did that, and then they come back a few hours later and be like, "Oh yeah, those teams we said were taking the piss. Yeah, they actually weren't."
Right.
Yeah, and we actually don't know what caused the puncture yet, so we probably should have said nothing until we figured that part out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, there's been a death.
Well, and going back to the point we opened here about the dirty track and the lack of cautions, definitely was a factor in this whole thing, and you can't really blame anyone for that. The track was quite dirty, but there's nothing anyone could do about that because there's no cautions to clean the track. So
I would also assume that if it's debris was playing a role in these, it would have been more random.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, is that it wasn't as random. Because yes, there was tires that were cut by debris, and that's that, but it doesn't account for all of them.
Absolutely not. Okay, moving on. Another kind of a low point. Mazda Team Yost. They. So I'm just gonna go out on a limb here. Just throwing this out here.
Okay.
Perhaps trying to extract about 550 horsepower from a 2-liter 4-banger for 24 hours is not the best idea? Perhaps?
Look, it wouldn't be mad as if they weren't trying to pull off some stupid engine concept in IMSA, would it?
No, it wouldn't.
Just what they do.
Man, that thing burned real good.
That was a quality fire. We must have been the International Horseshoe to the main stand at Daytona. That's at least half a mile.
Yeah.
We smelled some good Mazda in the morning when that thing went up.
That's
was
just
a quality fire.
And it's just
Christ, that was a good fire.
Going into it, and I emphasized this way too much when we talked about it before. I believe that Yost, being the magical Yost squad that had, run so well in those Audis for so many years, and then Porsche before them, and everything else they've ever done, would they had a lot of time to develop the car and basically build a new car, even though it looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're not there yet.
No, and they're gonna be busy between now and Sebring. Yeah. It was. You see, the thing is, car aside, the first, say, 3 or 4 hours of that race, I would not have been able to tell the difference between Speed Source and Yost running that team.
No, they did not seem to have anything for anybody. Unfortunately,
a wheel came off the fucking car.
Yeah,
at the start of the race. That's what? If that was Speed Source, we would be throwing all sorts of shite at them for that. But this was Yost. No, you don't do that. What? know.
Yeah, it just...
And there was this all sorts of stupid little things at the start of the race before there was even any reliability problems with the car.
Yeah.
They were just making mistakes that the teams that we would expect it from didn't make.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And here we have Yost doing these things. Now, to be fair to them, after say the first few hours and the first few mistakes, Werner Yost must have gotten to the stand himself and went, "Look, guys, pull yourselves together, right, and run this thing properly." And they did. To be fair, after that, then the cars let go. So
the cars let go. So that, unfortunate, but is what it is.
If we can bring a positive from the whole thing, the car's faster.
Car was
faster.
Still not faster enough. But
yeah. Which... okay, I don't want to bring that up now because we're going to talk way too much about that in the very near future. But yeah, they're making progress. And to be honest, if they can just get that reliability down, that'll be a huge step for them. Yeah.
Absolutely, and
then they can go whining to IMSA to get them faster.
Kind of a side note off that. I say 2-liter turbo making 550 or whatever. I think it's 550. What's specified?
Something like that. It has to be around that.
Is a little overstressed, but it occurs to me, isn't the Gibson only 3.5 liter?
No, the Gibson's 4.2 or something.
4.2 All right,
and it's twice as many cylinders.
Yeah,
and isn't turboed, which
normally
to get that much power after that engine, they must be running Supernauts boost.
Oh yeah,
actually, we probably look up the boost.
I believe
the BOP table.
Boost was specified in the BOP table. I don't have it on hand.
It is, but we don't. Look that up yourselves and come back and tell us, no, you're wrong. It's actually a reason on boost or some shit like that.
Generally,
I saw that turbo. It looked pretty big.
Generally, I would argue that a naturally aspirated engine of a given displacement is going to have to work harder to make power. But that's me thinking in like dyno terms, not endurance race terms. So.
And a turbo will always be running harder, as well as simply just having more parts to go wrong.
More parts, yeah.
Because it's the logic. You can either go big displacement naturally aspirated or small displacement turboed. We're still making that small displacement engine do the work. By literally forcing it to do it.
I think the answer, at least for this formula, is pretty clear right now.
Yeah, keep it simple. Even though the Acura and Nissan are showing that going halfway between the two concepts is actually working out pretty well. If they get them sorted, the mid-sized twin turbo car could do very well in the future of DPI.
Well, that just generally seems to be the global trend. Is if you're doing a clean sheet design, the most efficient way to make power is a V6 twin turbo.
Yeah,
that's where everything's gone. Not that I'm keen on that myself, but it definitely seems to be working really well everywhere they've done it.
Yeah.
So
on a random side note, the V6 in the Acuras,
yes,
sound-wise, that is what the Ford GT should have sounded like, but they don't.
I didn't really come through on TV, unfortunately.
I imagine it wouldn't, because in general the Nissan and the Acura can easily get overpowered by the other cars in the field. But both of them, they actually don't sound bad, either of them, and I'm glad that they actually sound different.
Mm-hmm. There are the odd V6 twin turbos that actually sound quite pleasing. The going on an aside again, the Holden supercar, or well, I guess it's a spec engine for the whole series now. But the
The
new
specific Holden.
the new
Whatever.
the new twin turbo V6 they're using over there sounds fantastic.
Hmm.
Uh, moving on, let's talk about JDC and United.
Yeah. So you know the way I said that I put JDC down as they'll kind of be there. They'll do well and kind of be there, and did the same for United. United then came and finished fourth,
mm-hmm.
and JDC, finished sixth and seventh. Like the seventh is more surprising. I would expect the 85 to finish where it finished,
Right.
but then to see the 99 like right behind it.
That was a new car, and it's not neither the 85 or the 99 are like all-star cast. I mean, they're good drivers, but they're not
Yeah. Yeah, that's not one. So it's definitely a pro-am team, not the most am team out there, but it's got those elements. It's not a full. They didn't do a core in it and hire some LMP1 aces or something like that. But yeah, that was a really good race. I don't think is going to get the attention it deserves of how good a race JDC pulled off. Real underdog race.
Mm-hmm. And they fought adversity too. They had some. I think the 99 had. Did they both have tires go down? I know the 99 did.
Probably.
I will admit to having needed to sleep at some point during the race, so I saw 16 of 24 hours.
Still more than what I did, and I was actually there. Though to be fair, when you're actually there, you see more when you're there. So
right.
That's something.
Yeah. And then United with the 32 car.
Which is not the one we expected.
Not the one we expected. Pretty good crew in that car, though.
Oh, yeah.
Paul DiResto and Bruno Senna.
Salier is not that bad either, and Willone is up and coming.
Yeah. So, yeah, those guys
did. They proved.
They did. They did.
Again, didn't have a clean run.
No.
Which, actually, there's no point even saying that, because no one in Prototype had a clean run. Even our two winners, in Action Express, both those cars were... I don't know. I think the TV coverage got to it late.
Yeah.
No, it took quite a while for them to notice, but all Sunday morning, they were running really slow.
Yeah.
They were nursing those cars around, and they obviously then during the last caution, one of the very few cautions, they brought both cars in to the garage, to fix them, to stop them from blowing up. They were just taking off the engine covers and throwing more water into the radiators to stop them from catching fire.
At that, it was a little bit warmer than normal, but not enough that you would think that suddenly people would be overheating. So
it was specific that those two cars were having some sort of trouble.
Possibly just something wrong with parts or something, or maybe that 5.5, being that it has to work harder to make the same power, maybe it's a little more stressed out than the old 6.2 liter engine.
Because the 90 retired because of engine issues.
It did.
Which it was a shock. Coming, say, from last year, where the Cadillac was bulletproof.
Yeah.
Like they did have problems, but those problems had nothing to do with the engine.
No, and
they bring in a new engine this year, and then there's these sort of niggling issues that pop up.
You wouldn't expect there to be anything, though, and it's. We'll have to see how that develops. It may not develop any further because we're out of the 24-hour races. So.
And as well as that, we've essentially a month before Sebring.
Yeah.
So they'll sort it out.
So, on the Cadillac, and possibly the Acura, maybe some BOP needed. Maybe a little bit. It is hard to say, given just the nature of this race, how it went. But clearly the Cadillac is the car to beat still.
There is clearly a hierarchy of cars in prototype. It's not like GTD where anyone can win,
No.
or or even GTLM where they'll qualify within half a second of everyone, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's clearly the hierarchy of Cadillac at the top, followed by Acura, Nissan, Orca. Both, they're about the same. Ligier, Mazda, Riley. Which arguably in a class such as this shouldn't be as obvious as it was.
No.
It wasn't terrible, and as this race proved, you still have to run a damn good race to get a good result, which it should be in endurance racing.
Absolutely.
But I imagine this is going to be something that IMSA are going to look at and tweak a bit before Sebring.
Worth noting, the caddies got BOP'd like every race weekend last year, and it didn't matter.
Yep.
Just a couple other points. I think we need to talk about Alonso just because we're like that.
Obviously. And I've now noticed I haven't mentioned him anywhere in the notes, despite him nearly running me down on a golf cart.
See, that would have been quite the story. I got hit by Fernando Alonso. You was in Twitter star. You could have made Mulsanne great again if you took one for the team.
Could have. To be fair, actually, it was Norris and Phil Hansen were in the golf cart ahead of him.
Yeah.
So to be honest, if I was going to get hit by something, it probably would have been them. That wouldn't been as much of a story. Actually, if that had happened, they would have stopped. Alonso would have had to stop, and then Alonso would have been murdered in the paddock in Daytona, and that would be the real story here. So actually, I would have been responsible for his death. Well done.
So yeah, that car, the 23 car, it had repeated brake issues. They changed like a master cylinder or something in the race.
Yeah, a master cylinder just went. Then the brake issue, which put them back up to that point. That car had been running very well, and
they were running good.
They were really in contention, which I was pleasantly surprised by. United's general performance was quite good.
Yeah.
And what's the best, sort of from the sports car side of things, was that it wasn't fully down to Alonso was pulling that team up. No, the pace between the three drivers was pretty even. Alonso was pretty open about it and actually gave special praise to Norris for his drive in the wet, which was which again was pretty good, especially considering how hard those prototypes on the wet because of the Continentals.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't want to go back to the Continental thing, but we can't miss this. I don't know how much it showed up on TV, but in person, I was nearly laughing at the side of the track watching the cars coming out of the horseshoes.
Yeah.
Because the GTLM cars were literally twice as fast out of the horseshoes as the prototypes.
Oh dear.
It would double their distance away from to the prototypes behind them. They smoked them. And it wasn't even that wet. I wasn't even wearing a coat in that rain. Yeah, it was not that wet.
So the rain actually, it seems like it looked worse on TV than it did at the track. Obviously, it was at night, so it picked up the raindrops in the lights.
It was clearly wet enough for wets, and wets were the correct thing to do. It was wet enough for that, and you wouldn't have survived that well on slicks. But it wasn't monsoon. It wasn't, it wasn't Petit Le Mans a few years ago.
No.
It wasn't Sebring.
There were no rivers. There was no flooding.
No, and so it was plain embarrassing.
Yeah.
Watching the cars on the Continentals absolutely struggle. And after that, throughout the night, you would regularly see cars getting overtaken on their first lap by GTLM cars because the tires are cold. And this is the track's dried out. There's no excuse or anything like this. Yeah, Sharky, the Protos don't have ABS or TC, but I'm talking about them on acceleration out of the corner. Which, again, kind of TC. Actually, I think the prototypes do have traction control. Do they?
I'm not sure.
The DPIs might. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if the Gibson cars have, because actually I remember distinctly hearing the Acuras having very obvious traction control.
Mm-hmm.
That
I want to say they do. I can't say.
definitely
for
don't
sure.
have ABS, but I think they have traction control.
It is worth noting that all the aero advantage that the DPs have doesn't mean shit in the infield. They are not making any downforce down there, and the GTs do have more mechanical grip.
They do, but I feel in the modern age that gets overplayed. Especially in GTLM, those cars are way more aero dependent than they're given credit for.
Right.
Obviously not to the extremes of the prototypes, but
No.
It still doesn't explain how they are accelerating along the whole straight in the infield.
Right.
Faster. It's not just a case of getting the power down earlier. They have obviously more grip.
But
and also, going by that as an extension, and where we see series on other tires, you never ever see anything like that, no matter how wet it is.
True.
Anywhere else.
True.
Any other racing in the world, do you see LMP2 cars getting beaten out of corners by GTE cars? Doesn't happen anywhere else.
So yeah, again, Continental, please. But this is again the last time we'll see that Daytona.
Good riddance.
Yeah.
Last time we'll see those tires, especially those specific tires.
What else do we got? The Riley chassis still sucks.
Shockingly shit.
Granted, it was Bar 1, and who was the other Riley squad?
It was just Bar 1.
I mean,
people would hate that.
50-50 team and car.
Yeah. To be fair to that team, though, they still finished like what, 14th or 15th, something.
They did better than you'd said they would.
Yeah. To be fair, they finished, which, as that race proved, that goes a long way. So, that team isn't as bad. That isn't actually as bad a team as we make out. But that car is shocking.
Yeah.
It is horrifically terrible. And it was actually quite funny in the autograph session, going by, with those guys, and they're brutally honest when people were asking them, just generally going, how do you think you're going to do? They're like, yeah, we don't have the pace, we're hoping to survive.
I mean,
in more or less those words.
Yeah, you gotta be realistic, so.
They were, and to be fair, that team needs credit for getting the result they did with that car.
Right.
What is worrying, though, is that apparently that was the updated Riley.
Oppo.
Yep. Like, my excuse that you could give them would be, they haven't applied the update. The fabled update that's going to bring this car back somewhat into contention. No, they didn't. That apparently that was it. That's the new car. It was as bad as the old car.
That's unfortunate. Perhaps that speaks to some of the quality over at Spirited Daytona Racing, that they managed to get anything out of that car last year.
Yeah, but again, it was circumstances where they ran, where the team did a quality job, and last year worked out better for them.
Mm-hmm. All right,
not so much.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they are that far behind. That chassis is that far behind. I mean, Riley has a decent rep. I think it's time to move on to the GTs. GTLM. Ford did Ford stuff. Obviously Chip Ganassi, that's about as professional an organization as you're going to get. and they were perfect.
Yeah,
So
and it's again coming back to lack of cautions. There was in all the classes, it was a pure race.
right,
There was no messing about, no resetting everyone at awkward
no,
times, no one gaining 3 laps in the pits because they fluked a timing of a pit stop.
yeah,
And especially in a race where we saw reliability affect the top class so much, Fords are not wrong.
no,
They, I, there was not a single mistake in that entire race. They managed the brief wet red rain right. They ran great fuel strategy as the Fords typically do. It's the strong point of that car. No mistakes from the drivers. No mistakes on pit lane in the pit stops. Nothing. I don't even think any of those Fords had a blade of grass in them at the end of the race.
I believe
They
it.
were that perfect.
Yeah, I mean they were. The TV coverage was very kind of focused on the protos as it tends to be, but the Fords were just there. They were quiet and they weren't on TV, which means they were staying out of trouble.
They just ran in circles for 24 hours and were absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Again, back to the TV point though. While admittedly the second half of the race in GTLM was kind of watching cars go around in circles.
Yeah.
So I think the TV did miss in the first, say, 10 hours. GTLM was actually a proper race then. Maybe not for the lead. The Fords were pretty strong.
Yeah.
But behind the Fords, there was good racing.
The Porsche seems to be coming on.
Yeah.
At least until the incident.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was in a car park when that happened.
Yeah.
What happened?
He ate it in the bus stop. He just kind of... I want to say it was... this... So, I'm terrible for this kind of thing. Because I get a little, dead after watching one of these things. It all becomes a horrible blur. But yeah, he just came into the bus stop and he went a little too deep and did a 360 and shed the wing and screwed the nose up and went back in, and that was it.
That was their race.
Did get it back. Those cars are freaking tanks. So they got it patched back up and he went back out and ran, but obviously that ended the challenge to the Corvettes.
Especially when the two leaders in the class are running such a perfect race.
Yes.
Hell, if he just the 360 alone, say he didn't even hit anything, that would take you out of the race.
Yeah.
In that case.
The Corvettes didn't make a mistake on track either.
No.
They didn't have quite the pace of the Ford, and they had a little bit of questionable strategy, which is very strange from them.
Yeah, it wasn't a terrible race from them, but it wasn't the usual Corvette standard.
No.
Really, from the pit wall. They weren't as fuel efficient. They weren't managing their tires as well as the Fords, which I think is the main reason why they fell back. Because on pure pace, all the GTLM cars were actually really close. It was just who could keep up the pace for the race. And the Corvettes would have it at the start of the stints. They would chase the Fords. They would even gain on the Fords.
Yeah.
But then, maybe halfway, 3/4 way into the stints, they just fall off, and the Fords would just keep going.
Yeah.
And that was their main issue throughout the race, that they just weren't managing the tires as well. I don't know where that comes down to. Did Ford just do a better job at the tires?
I would assume that the mid-engine chassis is just better on tires than the rear-engine car, or the front-engine car, rather. It's a better balanced car.
Yeah.
There's a reason why everybody's mid-engine now. So... but beyond that, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah, as well as mentioned, they weren't getting the fuel mileage that the Fords were.
No.
which inherently led to them to have to make more stops, as well as the fact that they had to make a brake change on both cars at some point during the race, which obviously that's going to be a long stop. That's going to cost you sometimes.
Yeah,
They're reasonably efficient with the brake changes, but again,
it
if
was
the
it was a
competitors don't have to,
it was a bit
no need to.
curious. I wonder if that was just again going down to the pace. They never got the brakes cool because they
Yeah.
never had the cautions. So BMW was there.
Yeah.
Only
And
they finished. The one car had a bit of a death. The only non-Conti tire failure.
hmm.
But the pace isn't there. It's a new car. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I didn't read it, but you were saying that they did a press release.
They had to go with IMSA. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand you
Yeah.
got to lobby for your car, but we'll see where that leads.
Yeah. I thought at the time, and kind of still do think it was slight overreaction. Because again, it's a new car. Just be happy the damn thing finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I from the outside looking at that, I thought that was quite a good debut for that car.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it looked like there was potential there for some pace. It was reliable. Team ran it well. What more can you ask for, really? To be honest, I sort of think they're, getting ahead of themselves here a bit. You know, this kind of need to step back and look at what they actually got.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yes, they were the slowest, still are the slowest, but new car. Everyone else has got a year, 2 years with their cars. They're going to be faster.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how well you balance the thing. They're going to be faster, and the danger for IMSA is, say they take 100 kilos off the BMW or some stupid thing like that, and yes, that may bring them back for Sebring, and they're balanced. But then, what happens after Sebring? They've got 36 hours racing with this car. They show up at Long Beach, they smoke the field because they now get the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the danger with a new car, and why you can see why our organization, the IMSA, will be slightly conservative and may seem harsh at the start, but what can they do?
And there's certainly a precedent for team sandbagging. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this has all very nicely brought us on to the big thing that's come out of the GT race in GTLM. Probably because nothing else happened much in GTLM.
Not much to rabble
to,
about.
Yeah, so people had to come up with some sort of story. So yeah, people were not pleased with the bounce in this class.
No. I mean, I haven't read a lot of the comments on it. It's pretty obvious
Probably
to
don't
me.
want to.
No. It's pretty obvious to me that the Ford is still the car.
Yes.
I say that as a massive Corvette fanboy and a bit of a Porsche guy too. But I digress. The Ford, it's not a situation like it was when they came in and they definitely sandbagged to get the results at the places they wanted to get the results at.
Yeah.
And
that's the weird thing about this.
It's a known quantity now. All of these cars are known quantities except for that BMW. So there shouldn't be any real questions about BOP, I don't think.
There was.
But there is. And I really would tend to chalk that up to there's not a lot to talk about. You know, Ford just went out there and won. And everyone else is a little upset about that.
Yeah. To be fair, the one thing that did kind of come out of it that I think should be looked at is, look, the Fords have always had a fuel efficiency advantage.
Yes.
And now, I would hope that IMSA are looking at how much is that balance, and technically what the car can do, how much of that is just Scott Dixon being Dixon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both cars were more efficient, so...
Yeah. it's just a general thing with that Ford. In an now, speaking generally, in an ideal world, I would like a balanced performance where cars' natural strengths and weaknesses are still present. So, say Ford have the most efficient engine, those cars should still be the most efficient. But a good balanced performance would be that their advantage isn't an overwhelming advantage.
Right.
And the thing is, if this is the trend in this season of IMSA where we get clean races with very few cautions, I fear that the Ford fuel efficiency will become an overwhelming advantage. So,
Possibly.
I don't want them to be paid back to where they've 3 liters in the tank and they're pitting every 2 laps,
Yeah.
or anything like that. I wouldn't if they're still the most fuel efficient car in the field. I wouldn't mind that, but I wouldn't object to IMSA taking a few liters out of their tank or something like that, just to bring it back a little. Yeah.
Oh.
As
Sure.
well as just generally slowing down would
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, it's a hell of a thing when you're both the fastest car and the most efficient car.
Yeah, that's a dangerous combination. But as we said, the weird thing is that they didn't sandbag. They didn't
No.
hide anything. And then when it came to the race, why should they push?
Got no reason to.
Yeah, because as consistent as they are, arguably part of their consistency is down to the fact that they didn't have to push.
Yeah.
They just drove as fast as they had to, and then when their competitors in Corvette and Porsche, which were the real competition to them at the start of the race, and actually gave them a race at the start of the race, before they had their issues that brought them back slightly, and that just gave enough of a gap for the Fords to take advantage. Yeah, that's that.
But it's also hard for me to not look at this, just the overall pace, making all of this an outlier. Like, it's gonna be a different story when we get to Sebring. I think we just need to wait and see.
Yeah.
Besides the fuel thing, I pretty solid agree on that. All right, we're we're pushing an hour now. Let's go on to GTD. And GTD was pretty interesting.
I think it was the class of the race.
Class of the race, I would agree. First of all, congratulations to Grosser and Lamborghini. That's their first 24-hour race win
in the entire history of Lamborghini.
How is that possible? They've been in customer racing for the last, 15 years? They've been really serious about it? You would assume, but no. This was their first one.
Well, I don't like to play stereotypes, but Lamborghinis have a particular stereotype in endurance racing.
They do.
Which I think plays into it.
And it has been historically well warranted, although those they've been very good cars in GT3 specifically, and that's probably we're just seeing that manifested.
Yeah, it's been coming, and finally, Grasser have brought Lamborghini, done a fine race, and they pulled it off.
So the rest of the class, we'd considered Lexus a strong contender. Not so much. That didn't work out so good.
It didn't work out at the end of the race. They had pace, but they sort of just kind of were just there.
They were just there was a whole lot of just there overall.
Yeah, yeah. So I said they were going to win the thing. I was expecting slightly a bit more than what they had, but still a decent effort. Yeah.
And I said that Acura was going to win the whole thing.
And they damn nearly did. So they were than me.
Pretty strong, but just a little shy. They did have some issues on track.
Yeah.
About the only people who did.
Yeah. And to be fair, at least one, if not two of them, were caused by slightly aggressive prototypes.
Yes. As unfortunately happens to GT cars every once in a while. It seems to be
Yeah.
that's been a shift. It used to be the GTs would do something stupid to the prototypes, and it seems like that's gone the other way around now, where the prototypes will murder a GT.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to. Okay, no, screw. We're going to single out Montoya for this,
Yeah.
because last hour or so of the race, we're down at the East Horseshoe, and we see two cars get punted off by him.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Like,
you do it once. That's
yeah,
pretty, that's bad. But then he does it again to another car. It's like, have you not learned? Are you not learning?
Just a little aggro.
But it's completely pointless aggro. It's the end. Right. It's the end of the race. You've got several laps either side of you for position. Just get the thing home. It's pointless risk.
Yeah.
Sure, the Acura didn't go off track or anything like that, but it could easily have taken everyone out.
Yeah, I mean, he could have broke the car, and
yeah, and that would have been pretty dumb. I'm pretty sure Roger would not appreciate that.
No.
Roger's fine as long as you break other cars, but once you break his car,
don't break my stuff.
Then things get wrong. Yeah.
So in general, BOP and GTD was fine.
Yeah.
Kind of seems like a GT3 spec class works.
Yeah. Works perfectly fine. It's good racing throughout.
Yep.
Near the end, it was the only damn racing that was going on.
Indeed.
So that was very much appreciated.
The winner for most bizarre thing of the entire race was the front falling off the number 58 Wright Motorsports Porsche. That was
the first warm lap.
On the first
Not even
warm
the second
lap.
warm lap.
That was bizarre.
Yeah.
Apparently something broke.
Yes, that's what they're saying, that the front suspension or something broke, which seems to make sense, to be honest.
Yep. I again, it's all it's speculation. Like,
yeah, I'm actually nearly more pissed off myself that I didn't see what happened.
Yeah.
It's possible that it happened in the blind spot, because the view from the grandstand in Daytona is kind of blocked by these huge fucking Rolex billboards that they put up behind pit lane.
Yeah.
So depending where you're sitting, you have blind spots in the infield, and I'm guessing they went off in one of those blind spots, because I think where we're sitting we couldn't see the kink, and I think that's where it happened.
Was it the kink or the first horseshoe?
I think both of those were blocked for us. Where
we were sitting. Yeah, so that was a thing, but good on them. They got the car back together and they finished the race.
Yep. They like lost at least an hour, nearly 2 hours.
Oh yeah,
at the start of the race.
They were like 85 laps down or something before they even got on the track.
Yeah, but they finished. And didn't finish last.
No, they did not. And now. Again, just generally the class was really strong. We have to talk about the one thing that everyone who watched this race is talking about: the number 29 Land Motorsports Monteplast Audi. They absolutely were curb stomping the field.
Yeah.
They were up a lap and a half or two. It was bad. They were absolutely destroying it.
To be fair, they had good pace and they were doing it. They're keeping pace on track.
Yes.
But they weren't doing 2 laps ahead.
No.
Only a few hours in. Pace
on track. So IMSA specifies, the balance of performance thing is a comprehensive package. It covers aero, it covers the engine, it covers fueling, it covers how much fuel, all of that. Um, and, that's controlled different ways. The fuel rigs have a restrictor in them, so they're all should be fueling at the same rate.
Well, specifically, how it works is that the idea is that a pit stop for every car will take the exact same amount of time in
Right.
an ideal world. So, the time it takes to fill up the tank in one car should be the same time it takes in a different car.
Right.
But because of other balance performance factors, such as fuel efficiency and weight and whatnot, cars will have different size fuel tanks. So, obviously, each car has a specific fuel filler, essentially, assigned to it. That is like, this is, for example, this is the Audi fuel rig, which is going to be different to the BMW fuel rig, which is different to the Ferrari fuel rig, etc. And that all works fine. IMSA puts a restrictor on it, they seal it, that's all good, and that all works well in theory. Because then it's
in theory.
Yes, because in theory, then it's down to how well a team executes a pit stop, not engineering an advantage.
All things being equal, if everyone is perfect, is the general thought.
Of course, race teams being race teams, they're not going to leave it down to how well their guys are feeling that day. Which is where land come into this.
So, while they had the pace, they were running a fantastic race until they were penalized. Clean, not getting in the way of anybody. They were good. They were legitimately good. It wasn't like their advantage was just their fueling.
Down to the fuel rig. It wasn't solely down to it.
But they were gaining 5 seconds at pit stop. And so they get
at the minimum they were getting.
Yeah.
Some stops they gained more.
Like 8 or something. It was bad. It was real bad.
Yeah.
So IMSA sees this. They're not happy. They give them the 5 minutes, and then that screws them pretty bad. Although they were so far ahead, they could have turned that around.
They would have other problems.
The wing fell off. That kind of sealed it for them.
Yeah.
But what comes out after the race is the car was legal. The fuel rig was legal. They broke no rules. No written rules.
Yeah.
The problem is
they somehow did break a rule. Yeah, this is sort of the weirdest thing to get your head around with this whole situation is that no rules were broken.
Right.
Everything was legal.
Right.
Technically. The car was legal. Fuel rig was legal. Have to keep emphasizing all of that. Like, both Audis, theirs and the Magnus, had their fuel systems impounded by IMSA after the race.
Absolutely.
And they found nothing.
Yep.
It was perfectly fine. So that's the weird. But despite all this, they were fueling way faster than they should have been able to fuel, which kind of breaks a rule. But this is what this whole issue hinges on.
So,
what rule did they break?
What rule did they break? In Europe, in Blancpain and ADAC, and I'm sure everywhere else, they specify a pit stop time. You have to be in the pits for this long. That's kind of antithesis of how we do things in America. Traditionally, in American motorsports, the pit crew has been very heavily emphasized. That they have to be great.
And you see this throughout IMSA's philosophy in general when it comes to pit rules, such as the fueling during tire changes and things like that.
Yeah.
It's emphasizing essentially a complete clusterfuck that you have to navigate, and the best team will win out of,
Yeah, and I mean, the fueling thing, if you're making like fuel rate and that kind of thing, fuel flow rate rather, part of the BOP thing, you almost have to specify you need to be in the pits this long, just in case somebody does something like this. Somebody figures that thing out.
It doesn't even have to be you have to be in the pits this long. It's just that the fuel hose has to be in the car for this amount of time.
Yeah,
you know that sort of thing. Which, interestingly, in this whole thing, which possibly the weirdest point of this whole thing, was that okay, Land get the penalty, get told you're fueling too fast. So Land obviously then go, okay, right, we'll meet you here.
Right.
We'll keep the fuel rig in the car for 40 seconds like you want us to. You know, and that's a very common sense solution to the whole thing after the penalty of how they'll continue on afterwards. And you would thought IMSA would, okay, that's fine, because that's what I want in the first place.
Right.
But no, IMSA said no. Said, no, you have to restrict the fuel flow in your fuel rig, which is legal.
Yeah.
So they're manually closing the valve every stop.
That's just absurd.
Which is like, who the fuck was on shift at that time? Take him out and beat them with a stick and tell them, what? What are you doing? It's kind of unrelated and it doesn't really impact anything else, but it's sort of in the midst of all these things, it doesn't paint IMSA in a great light, because it's like, if this is the sort of culture and attitude they are showing at this particular time when all this is going down, were they really being sound?
Yeah.
Were they thinking soundly about this penalty? If this is the sort of thing they're coming out with at the same time?
It's just from my perspective, I understand the BOP stuff. It's GT3. You expect it. They're trying to make the cars equal. That's fine.
If to be honest, if they weren't doing something like this with the fuel flow as part of the BOP, we'd probably be arguing, why the hell aren't they doing that?
Everybody would be coming up with something. And, the point is, let's not get into an arm race over engineering. Unfortunately. Well, it's just so expensive. And that's
it is what it is.
That's what drives all of this. That's why LMP2 is the prototype class now. Because LMP1 is just too much.
We have to have our spec prototypes.
Right.
Yeah.
But they do put a pretty good show on the track.
They do. That's spec racing.
But the global, to me, like the application of the penalty, right? Globally, or not globally, but to IMSA specifically, Land is not running the full. I assume they're not running the full season. They might be running the North American Endurance Championship because they're a European team. They run ADAC GT Masters, I believe.
And as well as obviously cherry picking top GT3 races.
Right.
They're one of the the European sort of touring teams.
Yes.
GT3 that we've seen develop in the stage of GT3. Quality closely linked to factory teams.
Yeah.
That essentially tour the world, showing up at races and and doing their thing, which that's what they do. That's great, and it's good to see them show up, and good to see them if they are going to continue, say, do the North American Endurance Cup this year. I'd love to see them go for that.
Well, certainly, I hope they're back. Although I wouldn't blame them if they didn't come back after this. But to that point, the penalty is extra heavy-handed because this is not a team that's competing in your championship. If they go out and win, it's not hurting the season. And ultimately, they weren't cheating. They just figured something out.
Yeah.
And
it was a perfect loophole and oversight in the rules that IMSA never wrote down in the rules that you have to fuel for this amount of time, or within some margin around this time.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't in the rules.
Yeah.
It was what they wanted to do, but they never put it down in writing.
Yeah, Marshall Pruitt's piece says that they had told the teams verbally we wanted this,
Yeah,
but it wasn't in the rule book.
Yeah, and if it's not in the rule book, doesn't matter. They can go to hell.
Right. Which kind of speaks to a culture thing in the U.S. versus Europe.
Indeed. Yeah.
You know, when IMSA tells a team here they don't want something to happen and it's not necessarily in the book, they kind of expect them to listen. Whereas in Europe, if it's not in the book, you should have put it in the book.
Indeed.
And I agree with that more, but
yeah, it's a cultural thing, and hopefully, this all. Hopefully, IMSA go through all the regulations and make sure they haven't left some things to chance. Which, yeah, people may come back and say, "Oh, you're over regulating it," but it's like, would you rather this, or would you rather the mess that not doing things properly causes?
Yeah, and then it's so hard to say what would have happened in the race had they not been penalized. You don't know if the wing falls off or not. And certainly,
they could. At the rate they were going to win by something like 5 laps.
Yeah,
and we would then be rabbling on why did IMSA let them win by 5 laps.
True.
It was a loophole. Okay, whatever.
Absolutely, the best case scenario for IMSA in this deal would have been had they not penalized them and the wing fell off.
Yes. Because then no one would have noticed.
Yeah.
IMSA would have quietly told them afterwards, what the fuck were you doing? They would have been told, they would have, we should fix that before Sebring. And no one may have even noticed. It would have just popped up randomly in the next table of BOP, fuel flow will be this time. And people would know it, that wasn't there before. Okay.
And that's the obvious fix, is they just need to say, hey, we expect this much time. And just
give them a few seconds either side, and there you go. But they need to write it down.
Yeah,
that's the main thing coming out of this.
Absolutely, get it on the books, make it clear, and not have this again, because it's embarrassing. And it's
as these things always are.
And it's
whenever an organization get outsmarted by one of their teams, it's embarrassing. But that's racing. It's been the very same way since nearly the first race. People have found loopholes, oversights, whatever in rules, and they've exploited them, and that's just racing.
Yeah, I mean, well, so many of the best teams have built their empires on being smarter than the sanctioning body. Penske,
Indeed.
The Unfair Advantage. That was the title of Mark Donohue's book, and he was the first really great engineer driver. Well, not the first, but one of the great engineer drivers. And he understood, finding everything in the rules and on the engineering side to make a car faster for whatever class he was in.
Exactly.
And
it's what you have to do in all levels of racing, even if you're... In our example, we're just a bunch of idiots to take on some rich guys in historic racing, right?
Yeah.
We take the absolute piss with the rules, as does everyone.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's what you have to do. At all racing. It's always what happens. And so in the end, it just comes down to how you manage it, Which is really... When it comes down to it, it's the real issue here is how IMSA reacted to the whole thing.
Yeah. It almost would have been better to just let them win,
Yeah. Yeah. Rather than what they did, at least.
Yeah.
Because they come out with a vague sort of penalty. To be fair, they are quoting a rule that is pretty vague. It's the only rule they have to quote is the general, we have the right to penalise cars that seem to be too fast.
Yeah.
The generic catch-all.
Yeah.
The sanctioning body has the right to throw the book at you for whatever reason they see fit at their discretion. Which should, for something as technical as this, should not have to be used, and that's the issue, is that they shouldn't have needed to have to resort to that rule.
No.
The rule should have existed. No, as we keep saying, it should have been there.
All right, so I think that covers all the race specific notes that we've gone over. Um, you were there. Talk about the crowd experience, the fan experience.
Okay, so I've been to several sports car races, big sports car races. We've done 6 Hours Silverstone 3 times. We've done Le Mans twice. Uh, we've even attended some motorbike road racing. Daytona is actually, I would say it's actually competing with Le Mans for our first Le Mans for an experience. It was actually brilliant. It is definitely, you can see why what is rapidly growing to be North America's most prestigious sports car race. Sebring may have the grander history, but you can see why.
Yeah,
it's definitely Daytona.
Facility-wise, Sebring's not very good.
No, it's like it was that's the nice thing about Daytona, and one of the unique things about it. You can make it as hardcore or as casual and comfortable as you like without breaking the bank. Obviously, you can do it anywhere you like, but it's going to cost you several thousand. But for to be honest, for us, our hotel probably would have cost the same as camping. It's just what you want. It's just the nature of Daytona, and facility-wise, best facilities I've ever seen at a racetrack. And the fact that I am able to stand by the horseshoe in the infield, and I've Wi-Fi to rabble on Discord.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That the only track I've ever visited that has actually had any Wi-Fi at all. Not to mind what turned out to be rather decent coverage. Not comprehensive, as would later hurt us, especially when it comes to stalking certain internet people who are currently streaming. The only reason we didn't come across each other on Saturday was because the Wi-Fi was too inconsistent.
Right. So, we were in voice on the Discord all night, obviously. That's what we do. We're idiots. And Cone kept popping in and giving us loud race car noises throughout the night.
Actually, the last time he did that, did you hear any voices in the background?
Did not. Mostly I heard brum. Lots of brum.
As I would imagine, because the last time he did it was actually was when I'd met him.
Yeah.
And we were just standing in the inside of turn 2, and he gets his phone out and he's like, "Look what I've been doing all night," and joins your voice channel. And we're just I just start briefly talking about, "Oh yeah, you're doing it. Yeah, there's mention you're doing it. Oh, is this what you're doing? Oh, that's cool." and just sort of laughing at the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure you didn't hear any of us chatting over you. You just heard from.
Oh, so much mic peeking. It was glorious. It was brutal.
Yeah.
From the infield there.
Yeah, the inside of turn 2 is stupidly loud. To be honest, it was probably the worst place I could have met him.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's this points where we start a sentence and we just wave at each other like, "No, shut up, wait for a gap in the track." Yep, okay, we can talk now for about 5 seconds before another gaggle comes through.
Yeah, I was gonna say, everyone was so spread out, you probably didn't get any quiet.
No. There's some gaps because for some reason Daytona produces gaggles of cars. If anyone's watching the iRacing race and you see the gaggles out appear, that's remarkably realistic, which is how races go down at Daytona. Typically, other 24-hour races completely clear that out of the system by the end, but Daytona somehow still keeps that up, even though with no cautions either, which was a weird thing.
Yeah.
That we still had gaggles, but we didn't have cautions to produce the gaggles, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, like as a race, an event to attend, absolutely brilliant, amazing. Whether you're camping or doing what we did, stay at a hotel nearby, it's it's just brilliant. Then aside from the accommodation, you have the track. It's a roval.
Yep.
Which say what you want about rovals, they're brilliant to spectate because you can just go off into the main stand, see the entire track.
Yeah,
and go down to the infield. You right next to the track. It's you're covered from whatever experience you want.
So from the stand, you're going to get what, at least 3/4 of the track, if not like 7/10 or something.
It's 9/10 of the track.
9/10, okay.
You're literally only missing at most, depending on where you're sitting, like a corner.
Yeah, and I assume in the infield you're still going to be able to pick up bits of the banking.
Yeah, which is one of the cool experiences at Daytona. If say from the European perspective, Americans probably fucking sick of watching cars go around banks, ovals, but from the European, this is a novelty to see cars go around you, like in complete circle around you. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
as well as acting as a natural amphitheater and amplifying everything.
Oh yeah.
There was nearly oppressive levels of freedom in that field.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a tremendous field too. So
yeah,
but
like audio wise, it is definitely the best field I've ever seen. Throughout all the IMSA categories, like we had the Conti field, which is full of GT4 cars, which has those Mustangs, which
it's a good sounding car.
Their freedom is oppressive. It's so free. It's so good. And what's underrated in the Conti field actually are the Aston Martin GT4s that they've run in GS.
Yep.
They sound really, really good. Like better than any Aston Martin in Europe. I don't know what they've done to those cars in America, but they sound really good.
They just let the freedom out.
Yeah, that's this. So like, no, we believe in freedom here, and they embrace it, and they sound glorious. You also have you then have the Ferrari Challenge, which are sort of more freed up 488s, which sound glorious. They again, not the loudest things in the world, but they're louder than the GTE versions of the car, weirdly. Which means then you can hear more clearly what is actually a really sweet sounding car. So they sound good. Then you got the IMSA field, which GTE is a great sounding class.
Oh yeah.
GT3 cars sound.
I lost you there, NCW.
And here coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you go on to the prototype field, which is its main advantage over European prototype fields is the variety of what you got. You got the V6s and the Nissans and the Acras. You got that violent little thing in the back of the Mazda. You got the freedom of the Cadillacs, and then you got the screaming Gibsons. It's great. You got the variety, and throughout the whole IMSA package, only one car doesn't sound good, and we all know what car that is. But literally every other car you listen to and like, that's not a bad car.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind listening to that. That's good. Even the TCR cars don't sound bad. They're just 2-liter turbo, touring cars.
Yeah,
they don't sound bad.
That's
not a bad car.
That's a worthy side note in the Conti race. That was the debut of the TCR in North America, I believe, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the future is bright.
Yeah. I mean, again, tightly regulated spec classes. They go very much against, things we as fans want to see, as fans of engineering want to see, but they always produce really good racing. And more importantly, I don't know if I should say that, but perhaps, in my opinion, more importantly, they ensure that the manufacturers show up.
Even though the manufacturers haven't yet showed up.
TCR in America is a problem because they don't all operate here, and you have to operate here to beat.
Which is something I hope IMSA loosen up a little on.
Yep.
I know
Although
IMSA do it, but
it's also a question of whether or not Peugeot or whoever, Seat comes, looks at America and say, "Hey, I don't sell my product here. Why would I put anything behind a program in the U.S.?"
Right. You see, the awkward thing will happen though, and it will happen, is that you see the thing is that these aren't really manufacturer supported.
Right.
And technically, TCR isn't supposed to be.
Right.
It's just manufacturers selling race cars.
Yeah.
To a standard to customers. The customers hand over money, get race car. For most customers, that's the end, and for most series, that's all they want. They don't want factory effort showing up in TCR, or GT4 or even GT3. They don't want the factories to show up there
Right.
and beat the crap out of some privateer
Yeah.
teams. That's not what they're for. But the awkwardness in general with IMSA is that if a manufacturer is an IMSA, the manufacturer has to pay up marketing money.
Yeah.
Which at that point, the manufacturer's like, hold on here, I'm not even running a factory team.
I need to get
Why
my
not
worth
paying?
out of it.
Yeah, so then they want a factory team, and then IMSA in the awkward position of, oh, we don't want you to be a factory team there. We want you to be a factory team in this class, but the manufacturer doesn't want to be in that class, and it gets messy. So the awkward thing is going to happen is someone's going to be like, look, I got these two Seats that I bought 2 years ago. I want to run in Conti. Why can't I?
Yeah.
And IMSA will be like, well, Seat didn't pay us money, but then team will be like, why should Seat pay you money?
Yeah.
We don't care if we don't get any marketing. We just want to race.
Right. And ultimately, there shouldn't be any harm in that, but
there shouldn't. There should be exceptions. Yeah.
But yeah, Conti is generally
Conti's
outside.
looking good.
Yeah. Chevrolet fanboy here is not happy that the Camaro is not back. Although unfortunately, in the off season, Stevenson died.
Yeah.
And that team is just completely shuttered now, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So
It just gone. It's terribly unfortunate that we only had two Audis because we didn't have our two Stevenson Audis. Yeah.
And the Conti race, I guess we can cover just a little bit.
We already kind of have.
We already have, yeah. I watched it at work. I managed to get away with that. My boss didn't say anything. He just kind of walked away. Even though I was using his Wi-Fi. The GT4 class, to me, is interesting. It's going to be very competitive globally. It's going to be bigger. The cost to run it's pretty low for racing, as far as racing goes. Those Mustangs are pretty spectacular. To me, it's the GT4. The weirdest thing about GT4 to me is just the huge variety. Is we're gonna take McLarens and Audi and bring them over with their R8 and their 650 GT3 car, and then nerf it down to a GT4.
Yeah, to race against the Mustangs and the Caymans.
Yeah, like that's very, very strange to see. Although certainly, if you're a team or something, that's got to be great because that car's got to be so under stressed that you're just going to be able to wail on it all season long and not have to worry about reliability.
And then as a spectator, you get a show with it then.
Yeah. The BOP seems to be really strong there. Like they seem to have it figured out.
Yeah. For all that we said earlier about BOPs, it's like we can't forget that IMSA is usually pretty on top of all this. Yeah. And there's only one or two classes in everything that IMSA sanctions, which is quite a lot. When you look at all the series that they run, there's only ever one or two classes that have any sort of trouble. Coincidentally, or maybe not, these are the one or two classes that probably are worth the most monetarily, prestige-wise. Which that's not a surprise at all. It's easier to sort of keep the Conti guys in check because it's Conti.
More competitive teams, bigger teams are going to have more leverage to try different things and cause issues. And I think another thing, with the as good as IMSA has always been at BOP, least in the modern history.
Mm-hmm.
When something comes up, it's bigger because you're not constantly, unless you're a huge sports car fan and watching every race, you're not constantly thinking about it.
Yeah.
Whereas, if a series has had kind of consistent issues with getting the BOP right, you expect it. You
Yeah.
expect them to be off for a race. You understand, hey, they'll try and figure it next time. But when it's usually right, and then it's not, it's a bigger deal.
Yeah.
To
Or at least,
outsiders,
looks like it.
Yeah.
Or at least it looks like a bigger deal than the reality. It's-
But yeah, I think we can kind of wrap it up here. Overall, tremendous pace. It was kind of an old school race in that reliability
Yeah.
played a factor again, which has
It was
not been a thing in a long time.
not been taking a long time, but I feel like we've been saying that for the last half a year or so.
Right.
Sort of, we're sort of reaching an odd phase in endurance racing where we've had the last few years of incredible reliability, but things are sort of getting a bit undone. We're beginning to push things a little harder now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sort of going through a phase where reliability become more of an issue. It's not like near what it was, say, back in the day, but it's kind of become more of an issue again. And give it a season or two, we'll probably go back to the way it was for another few years, and then come back again. These things come in cycles, but it's still quite interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
we saw had the best of both worlds in this race.
it certainly wasn't boring,
No,
and
the
that's something to say.
the first half of that race was incredible, race wise.
Oh yeah,
The on track action in the first half of that race was absolutely incredible, absolutely brilliant. If I had paid $100 just to watch the first half of that race, worth it, absolutely worth it.
Yeah.
The fact that I paid $100 and got 4 days in Daytona is ludicrous. Sports car racing, stupid value for money when it comes to tickets.
That's a tremendous package. I didn't realize it was that little.
Yeah, it's $100, 4 days at Daytona, go everywhere, anywhere. And when I mean anywhere, like I could literally walk up to a car and touch it if I felt like in the garages. You know?
That's pretty good. That's
Essentially all I need to do is, if you just look at the Flickr album I did of just people I saw in the garages, it's like that. There you go. People would pay $100 just to get that, and I paid $100 for everything. Yeah.
Also, that kind of gives me hope because I'm gonna try and go down to Pirelli because they're coming to Portland this year, and that's what counts as a road trip for me is 6 hours to Portland. But so hopefully that'll be
this time.
That'll be a nice cheap ticket.
It should be cheap, and I imagine it'll be just open paddock. It'll be like fuck it, anything goes.
I assume so. Anyways, good race. The only issue I have with it is those poor guys at land having it taken away from them.
Rip.
You can't fault them for being good, and they got faulted for being good. But
we're put in a bad situation. To be fair to them,
I mean, unfortunately, they're trying to make it fair for everybody. That is why BOP is a thing. It's supposed to make everybody competitive. They just missed. They missed on a thing that a team could use to gain an advantage. But beyond that, super clean race. Everybody ran a good one. That was Daytona. So thanks for doing this. We've got an hour and 40 minutes, so we filled some. It's like twice as long as the first one.
Is it? That's not. We went an hour and a half the first day.
Did we? Okay.
At least I think. Yeah, we did.
Funny thing about these endurance races is everything afterwards gets weird. Like it's all this weird blur. What happened before? Just it's so far ago, even though it's a couple.
Oh yeah, I really lost track of time in Daytona in general. I was like, it's only Friday? Shit.
I'm already deaf.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for coming out for this Tact and Tact. Hi Tact. Tact's in the chat, and I was reading chat, and then.
And you missed Tact showing up? Oh, yeah. You're the best streamer.
I'm the best streamer. But
well done.
Thanks for doing this. Powers was here. Sharky was here.
We were going to get to you, Powers. Patience. He literally popped up in chat saying hi when I was about to say, "Oh, Powers is here."
He actually.
Sharky was here. Yeah.
Sharky was here. He put a clip up in the chat if you want to see how phone race car noises went for us. But thank you for joining me for this NCW, and we'll probably do this thing again for Sebring. Probably, maybe a little bit.
Fuck, we did 2 for Daytona. This is now a thing, apparently.
I can't promise you that we're gonna do a comprehensive post every time, but I don't know. I have a lot of time on my hands, so we might.
I have no time on my hands.
Oh, but you're a crazy person. Come on.
Yeah, this is being established. Funny enough, you first threw out the idea of doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I presume the YouTube clip has stopped by now as well. We fucked off some time ago for that edit.
Right.
But you threw it out there and I was like, I jokingly said, don't expect anything to tell from me. The typical blur of what just happened. I have no idea what happened that race. And then literally I wake up this morning and I'm like, hold up, I actually have a lot to talk about. Let's do something.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the notes.
Certainly it'll be easier when you're at home and we've both watched the race on TV.
Yeah. In that episode, I did manage to be able to talk about several things here that you wouldn't have seen on TV, and I know you wouldn't have seen on TV because
true, very true.
Essentially, all the time, Saturday, Sunday, even when I was in the hotel, I had the commentary running.
Yeah.
Which again which is an odd thing to have at an endurance race.
Yeah.
I'm in a hotel and I'm listening to the race on Wi-Fi. What the hell?
Yeah.
What sort of ridiculously civilized endurance race is this?
And something worth saying on that again. Radio Le Mans is awesome. I'm so glad that we have them, especially considering they cover everything. So we get a really good, consistent quality of coverage. So I wish they had like a subscription service or something, so I could send them money because they're awesome.
Yeah. That's always the fun thing. The game that I play when listening to them is that I'm listening out for the discrete sponsorships that are not sponsorships, but they are sponsorships because someone's paying for this.
There was a few of those. There was.
See, they're not so bad at the track because they sort of break it up a little. Because you're at the track, you don't care what's going on. But yeah, they're a thing when watching at home.
I mean, again, it's
it's better at least, right? People may have their issues, legitimate issues, and get kind of annoyed by, oh look, is this person Michelin talking again for half an hour, that sort of thing. But at least they're far more interesting than the ads they could be running.
Yeah, and
at least they have the decency. If something happens on track, they will say something's happening on track. We'll come back to you in 3 hours.
Yeah, and it's also, even when it's like a marketing person, they know their product and they know why they're there, and it's more targeted than an ad even would be.
Yeah,
and
they're way better than ads. Yeah.
The other thing is, it's a 24-hour race. You got so much time to fill. It's not a big deal, unless you're cutting up on track action. And they're, like you said, they do a good job cutting away from those guys when something.
Yeah, they strike a good balance. You know, they know they have to get this person to plug their shit for this amount of time, but they're also, but you can tell they're obviously keeping an eye on what's happening on the track, and you won't lose track of things,
Mm-hmm.
and you might hear some random shit about Michelin.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, I think that concludes it. Uh,
To
obviously,
be honest, I thought we concluded like 10 minutes ago, but
we ended up talking more.
yeah, this may be bonus for the live studio audience. Who knows? You're probably just gonna throw this whole thing up on
I
YouTube, aren't you?
I think I'm gonna have to keep that because there were some relevant points in there. I will.
Good luck navigating the editor to
Uh,
cut out the into me.
yeah, what I did last time was I just cut off the start and then I left everything after that. That's what we're gonna do. Um,
Well done.
so yeah, that's it for this little podcast staring at the Assetto Corsa pit screen thing. Um,
Oh, yeah, I've had the stream pause the whole time.
oh yeah,
Is the little thing still going? No, it's not. Oh,
no,
Jesus
it
Christ.
looped twice and I gave up. Either tomorrow or today if you're NCW here. Bathurst 1000. 1000? 12 hours. I'm so traumatized by the 1000 that it's the only thing I can think of now.
The 1000 last year it might as well have been a 12.
Pretty sure it was longer than the 12-hour race.
It felt longer than the 12-hour race.
So that's today or tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world. Unless you're on YouTube, in which case it's already happened. And
You missed it.
yeah, you missed it. I don't know dick about Australian sports car racing. I just enjoy watching it.
All
So,
I know is
I
it's
can't-
entirely Australian endurance sport. It's kind of an unusual thing. It's really international, but
Mhm.
really Australian at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was quite cool. But neither of us know anything about this race. We're too busy with Daytona to do any preparation.
Yeah.
So
We
all
got
we
nothing.
we got nothing. Our preview is it's on sometime soon.
Yep.
It's great. You should watch it. Go watch it. Have fun.
Do the
I need to
thing.
make a bingo card
Watch
for it
the
as well.
thing.
I have to do it now. Actually.
We do have one prediction, and I think you'll agree with me on this. The number 75 Sun Energy AMG Mercedes. It's a better looking car for Sun Energy, but it has Kenny a Bull in it still, and they're gonna die. But that's all I got.
There you go. There's our official prediction for the Bathurst 12 hours.
They're gonna die. And that's it. That's all I got. But
Someone will win, someone will lose, and a kangaroo may or may not get hit by a car.
yeah, it's kind of weird that we don't see Roo guards in Australian GT, although they are kind of built like tanks nowadays, so it's probably.
They have a fence up. They haven't hit a
Yeah.
roo in years.
All right, so yeah, let's call it here for the fourth or fifth time. Say goodbye, NCW.
Bye. We're done.
Bye, stream. We're gonna stop. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.